Hey, let's continue with processes. That's basically arrows following other arrows, I would say, and other types of arrows. But it's important that we understand how we can draw them so we can use them in our drawings. So the basic arrow that we saw before as well is the arrow that has a line and a solid tip, because we can fill that tip later on with color if we desire. Then if you want to have in that process, and let me just take a placeholder for that process step, a not directed connection here is a dotted line to another point of that process. So we already showed somehow process here. Then there is another way to do that, of course, with the arrow that is more solid, and you draw two parallel lines and then the big tip on at the end here, and you have the ability to even write something in that arrow or use that for a lot of color that indicates, okay, here is another type of process. Whereas some typical process in business, for example, you have these three arrows behind each other, just showing that quickly. So you have two lines in parallel here, and you close them with this type here. Then you draw the same thing again on the side and close it again, and the same thing again on the side. All of a sudden you have a classical business process. But don't forget, this is more the straightforward process. We are in an agile world and using all these agile methodologies. So we draw the agile arrow, just with a bit of like flow, then everything works well. And the last piece I think that is important when you want to draw a process is that kind of recurring cycle or recycling symbol. There are two ways to do that. One way is you draw half a circle and another half a circle, and at the end you add the two tips of the arrows. Or if you want to be more fancy, and I'm not sure where I have place, I think I have place here, or you draw one rectangle, open, second one, and third one. And if you have these pieces here open, the gaps, you can have one arrow here, and the other arrow here, and all of a sudden you have more or less a recycling icon if you want to. So these are all the elements I would use to draw processes. You can combine them in any way you imagine, and you can have a lot of fun with these. But don't overdo it, keep it simple as I showed you here, and you will have a lot of fun with that.